In this video, I just want to go over how to use an array and what it is. And so I've provided an example for you which goes through the example of an array and what it accesses. But I'm gonna start from scratch here. So I'm gonna go to File and New. I'm going to make an array. And the way that I make an array is I can say let my array equal something with brackets. And notice these are square brackets and a semicolon at the end because it's a statement. And I can fill this with whatever I want. I could fill it with 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Or I could fill it with hello, comma, world, comma, and then exclamation point. And so I could fill it with strings. I could fill it with colors. So I could fill it with color 25500, color 2550, and so on. So I can fill an array with any type of data. That also means I can fill it with objects, which is what we'll do when we're working with classes. But for right now, I just want to fill it with a series of numbers. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Now looking at this array has 5 elements inside of it. But the way that we actually read an array is a little bit different. So for example, if I have an array and this is equal to 10, 20, 30, 40, each of these is documented as an index point, like this. And this is index 0, this is index 1, this is index 2, and this is index 3. So every piece of data has a specific position, and that means we can access it later on. And in order to access it, the way that we would then do that is by writing the name of the variable. Oh, so I did a lowercase here. I would actually want to do an uppercase because I've done uppercase here, array, and then I do curly brackets. And if I wanted to access the first element here, I would do 0. So that's actually a 0. And this would be equal to 10. If I wanted to access the third element, which is 30, then I would do array, square brackets, and then 2. Because inside an array, it actually starts at 0. It doesn't start as 1. And so here, 1, 2, 2 would be here, would be 30. And as you'll see later on, we can iterate through an array as we're going along using a for loop. So going back here, I have an array. And if I came down here and said print my array, so even if I just printed it as a normal thing, and I look down at the console, it'll show me, and I'm going to turn off the loop here, no loop. We'll see that it is filled 0 position is 1, index 1 is 20, index 2 is 30, index 3 is 30, and index 4 is 50. So even though this has 5 elements, first one starts at 0, last one is at 4. If I wanted to see how many objects are inside my array, I can use something called dot length. And this is dot notation that goes on the end of a variable. And this only works with arrays. And so if I do my array, which is my variable name that holds an array, dot length, I will see the number 5 because there are 5 elements inside the array. If I add more to that, 60, 70, 80, that number is going to change down here. 8 is going to, it's going to show me my array is now going to have a length of 8, because sometimes arrays might change dynamically. If we put another object in, if we take one out, then we can see that by looking at our array with dot length, we can see that that number is going to change. So if I want to access one of the elements inside of it, such as the first one, I would do my array and brackets and 0, and I get 10. Now you can use that. So for example, if I did an ellipse at width divided by 2, height divided by 2, and I said my array, and I gave it position of 0. Now remember, ellipse can be x position, y position, and then this is the diameter. It's going to be 10. Now if I change this to 6, we're going to see that this is, let's make sure we do this, print array 6 is 70. Now this is going to be equal to 70. If I did 7 and 7, we're going to see this is going to be equal to 80. Now what happens if I do 8? If I try and do 8, I'm going to get an error. Technically, there's nothing there. This says it's undefined. My array 8 is undefined because I've gone outside the bounds of my array. So there's no data point there. And so we want to be careful when we're thinking about accessing our arrays that we're working within the bounds. And that's why we use something like dot length to see how long our array is. But we can use a for loop to iterate through our array. And so what I can do is write a for loop. So for let I equal 0. So I need to give it a place to start. And I'm using 0 because remember, my array starts at 0. So I want to be able to access this first position. I is going to start at 0. I is going to be less than my array dot length. So this is only going to run for as long as my array exists for. And then I equals I plus 1. And then inside here, I could do my brackets like that. And one thing you'll see a lot is I've done I plus 1. I equals I plus 1. So every time this for loop runs, it'll add 1 to the value of I. And so I can use I right here to iterate through my shapes. In order to see my shapes, I'm going to give them no fill and stroke that is black. That's the default, but it would work anywhere. And you can see I'm getting circles for each time my array runs. Now if I change this to something like 200, we should see that as the last one here. If I change this one here to 300, we're going to see that one come out further. So what this is doing, because this is a little strange, I'm using the value of I, which is coming from the for loop, down into here, and each time this runs, the value of I changes. So let's look at that. Print I is going to show me 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then if I did print I and then comma, my array I, so this is going to show me the value of I and the value of my array when I'm accessing that index with that number. So we can see 0 at 0 position, it's going to be 10. At index 1, it's going to be 300. Index 2 is going to be 30. Index 3 is going to be 40. And the last one, index 7, is going to be 200. So if I change any of these, if I change this to 500, now we're going to see that update inside here. And even if I change the length of the array, we're still going to see only those 4 numbers, and we're not going to get an error because my array.length is here. If I change this to 5, we'll see undefined. It's nice that actually is going to let it run anyway, but it wouldn't do exactly what we wanted to do because there were only 4 elements inside this array. So my array.length. One last note is you will often see, and I will do this in a lot of the examples, I++. I++ is the same as I equals I plus 1. So that's how you access an array. Those are the basics of working with an array. To create an empty array, you'll see this later on. Let cars equal blank array. And then we can put stuff inside of it. And so I could put anything I wanted inside of it. I could come down here and say cars 0 equals banana. And then if I said print cars 0, we should see a print banana down here. So you can add elements to an array, you can take them out, you can push them to it. And just remember, each array point has a specific index to look at.